Yay. Let's go. Ready to close out the week strong. Little finish Friday. Got a guest on this morning. That's going to be a fantastic episode of the Nudelberg Daily Huddle. Let's roll.
Yeah, I'm excited about all this stuff. Couple of things before we get rolling. They scored touchdowns on Thursday Night Football.
There were a lot of points scored last night. It's not great if you were a Saints fan. It's a tough game to watch, but
unreal, dude.
And for those of you who are like following the drama of the Arizona Cardinals, there was like, there's a tiff going on between the quarterback and the head coach. There's this struggle for who's in control and what should be happening. And then when your defense scores 14 points, it doesn't really matter anymore. It doesn't matter who wants to call the plays or what you guys want to do. Points are being scored.
Unbelievable. We got, as you said, we got a great show ahead. A huddler from the very beginning gets her day in court. She gets to share her thoughts as a breast cancer survivor. She does great on social media. She's fun to follow. We're happy she's here. Shouting out another huddler before we get going. Had the pleasure of visiting Hard Rock Hotel last night and having dinner with the one and only Ed Dykes. And if you have not been to Kuro, it's one of those restaurants that's just a notch above every other sushi restaurant. So when you go and you have great sushi, and it was great there. Little sidebar, fun story. We did not know last night Pitbull was in concert there. So the place was buzzing, going crazy. We're sitting there in the restaurant. We had reservations. We sit down. I look up, and Ed Ogeron comes walking through the restaurant. So I look up, I wave at him. He's walking right by. I say, "Hey, coach." Boom. Comes over, high fives us all. I mean, just like the happiest guy on the planet. Like he goes, "Where's all the good looking women?"
That is an Edo comment. That's what got Edo fired, actually. That's what got him his big payday outside of LSU. So
incredible. Jim Barrett, tip of the day, the Sunday brunch there. Wow.
Yeah, we've been. I
have not been. What do you mean? Whoa. What do you mean we've been? I have not been.
You have not been, but we, as in my family, have been and taken part with Jim before. I think I'm trying to remember what the event was. It was like James's engagement or something that we had gone for. I forget what it was, but it was awesome. It was
all right. Enough playing around. Let's get to some wake up music. We got wake up music. We got some little bit of content, and then boom, our friend Virginia takes the stage.
Wake up, everybody. Get up, get up, get up, get up. Wake up, come on. Wake up, everybody. Teach a new way. Maybe then they'll listen what you have to say. Wake up, everybody. No more sleeping in bed.
All right. Let's get to the meat and potatoes. Today is National Mammography Day, which every year, the third Friday in October, this is awareness. This is prevention. The best defense is early detection. Cancer is the second leading cause of death in the United States, and breast cancer is the most common. So this is a fight. It's touching everybody, everywhere. Let's get to the walk-up music for Virginia. This is her song, and then we'll sit and talk about her story. Let's go.
You know the bed feels warmer, sleeping here alone. You know I dream in color and do the things I want. You think you got the best of me, think you've had the last laugh, bet you think that everything good is gone. Think you left me broken down, think that I'll come running back. doesn't kill you makes you stronger. Stand a little taller. Doesn't mean I'm lonely when I'm alone. What doesn't kill you makes you fighter. Footsteps even lighter. Doesn't mean I'm over, 'cause you're gone. What doesn't kill you makes you stronger, stronger. That's me, myself, and I. What doesn't kill you makes you stronger. Stand a little taller. Doesn't mean I'm lonely when I'm alone.
Boom. And
Boom.
without further ado, welcome to Virginia. Welcome to the Daily Huddle. My friends call her Vicky, but jump right in.
Thank you. Well, thank you very much. I am honored to be here with you today. So thank you very much for inviting me, especially on this particular day for this specific topic. And yes, as you were mentioning, today is National Mammography Day. And that really points to the essential piece of early detection. And my story is primed like everybody else's story about how important early detection can really save your life. I'll talk a little bit about my story, but what I really want to focus on is what comes afterwards, the survivorship and maybe the impact that the men in our lives can have in supporting women when they're going through any part of this process, you know, with the diagnosis or even just the point of making the appointment. So like many other women, I found my lump myself, but I had a sneaking suspicion for probably about 6 months that something was going on. But I had all these things happening in my life at the same time, many of which are life-changing and very overwhelming. And for whatever reason, fate had them all thrown at the same time for me. I was going through a very contentious divorce. I was losing a lease on a house that I had moved to with my daughters, that we'd been there for 7 years. So I was scrambling in the red hot Silicon Valley market looking for a roof over our heads. My mother had fallen. She was in a rehabilitation facility. So dealing with all of these life-changing things and working, it just made it impossible for me to look after myself, which is something that a lot of women do. Is we take care of our families, we take care of our children, we have our jobs, we focus on every other aspect of our life, but we put ourselves on the back burner. And unfortunately, cancer doesn't wait for you. It just keeps growing. That tumor kept growing. So by the time I found it, it was stage 1. By the time it came out at surgery, it was stage 2. When it comes out at stage 2, your options are different. Now, chemo was part of the conversation. There were other things that were going to happen to my body. I had less control over that. And so it's really important to get that mammogram, go ahead and get screened. And this is where the men in our lives can have an important part. What you say to the women that, you know, whether it's your mother, your daughter, your sister, your neighbor, your friend, can really make a difference. Being supported by the guys that are in our lives, letting us know that no matter what happens to us, we are still just as important and just as beautiful as women, no matter what. You know, something that came across my mind when I was going through my cancer journey, because you tend to get a lot of clarity when you're facing your own mortality, was a question. It's a little deep, but bear with me. If a man goes to war and loses a limb, does it make him any less of a man? Now, likewise, if a woman loses a breast, does it make her less of a woman? Now, we instantly would think, of course, you want to say no, right? That's the correct answer. That's the politically correct answer. But the reality is, it's not just current media images and advertising campaigns, you know, the whole Barbie doll idea. It goes further than that. I think it, you know, just historically speaking, if you pick up any book on art history or history of Western civilization, or even walk into any museum, what you'll find right after the cave paintings are a lot of figurines, fertility figures. So basically just all throughout history, it's almost like we have it embedded in our DNA that women and their breasts are symbolic of the continuation of the human race. And we equate women with their breasts. So when we lose a breast, we feel like we're losing our identity as a woman. And I think that's the key part where men can have a difference, is letting us know that no matter what happens, we're supported, that she can still look at herself in the mirror, because will she even look at herself in the mirror? And I can tell you from my own experience, it took me months before I could actually look at myself and realize what had happened. I knew in my mind logically what had happened, but it's really hard to acknowledge that you're now missing a piece that was, it was there when I went into surgery, but I came out and, one of the jarring moments was walking into my closet and realizing that everything that was there that I had purchased over the last 44 decades was made for a body that I no longer had. And those are some of the realizations that, come, that nobody tells you about. It comes with time. And that's where maybe the words that we use really can have an impact. Sure. I can tell you one of the words that I chose to use was, I subtracted the word hard from my vocabulary during that entire cancer journey, and even afterwards. I subtracted it and put in challenge. So because of all the things I was going through in my life, a lot of my friends who were trying to be supportive, I'm not blaming them, everybody would come up and say, oh my gosh, Virginia, you're having all these things happen. It must be so hard. Every day must be so hard for you. And I thought, no, hard for me is like hitting a brick wall. Hard for me means that I'm going to have a difficulty in going over this. So I chose the word challenge, because challenge implies that there is the possibility, in fact, the probability of success. You're going to create a game plan, just like you would for a game or a business plan. You create a game plan. You use all of your resources, which in this case will be physical, spiritual, mental, psychological, to overcome this challenge, because I was in it to win it. I had no choice. I was not going to let cancer win. I was going to not let cancer define my life. I was going to defy cancer. I had to win.
So you first of all, when I was preparing to have you on, I knew that it was going to be hard for me, because I've followed your story through social media. You are a survivor. You are a warrior. Your mindset controls so much. And it's such a lesson for everybody. And I don't mean that in any, other way than this is what people need to be paying attention to, is people who have overcome that challenge. They've done it, and there are these great stories. Mark, any comments? I mean,
so I would love, because there's so much to learn and unpack from this story. You said in the beginning that you had a sneaky suspicion, that you had an idea. How, if there's somebody else who's having that internal dialogue, what were some of those traits of that sneaky suspicion? What were some of the things that you were thinking or noticing that if somebody else was going through the same thing, they could hear it and go, oh, wow, that's what Virginia was having. I need to go get checked out.
Certain sensations within my breast where I knew something was happening. It wasn't something I could feel just quite yet, but I knew something was there. The difficulty I was having was because I was going through this divorce, I had already lost my health coverage. And I was going to be one of the first patients going through with the Affordable Care Act. Oh, wow. So it was, part of my story, it's very intertwined with a lot of what was happening in the country at the time. Sure. My divorce was being impacted by several propositions, which is why it was so contentious. But the Affordable Care Act, once it came into being, the hospitals didn't have contracts with it. The doctors didn't have contracts with it. I was one of those trailblazing patients, literally calling up doctors and labs, letting them know about the Affordable Care Act, because even these national organizations with 800 numbers that are all listed on the pamphlets that you get when you're supposed to get resources for cancer, they didn't know about it. So here I was calling them, trying to get some information for them. And in fact, I was educating them about what was going on with the Affordable Care Act. It was really an eye-opening experience into the healthcare situation in this country. We are so lacking in resources.
So if somebody was feeling the sensation or had the idea of oh, maybe I need to go get this done, if you could streamline some of that work for people and you could give somebody a simple process on what would your advice be on saying, hey, I feel a sensation, I think it might be something, what's the best route from there?
Get checked. Just get checked right away. Call up, see what you need to do to get that mammogram. Sometimes you do need to go to your general practitioner first, depending on your insurance, but don't wait. Don't do what I did. Don't wait. And again, what women tend to do is we're focusing on the bigger fire of the day, and it's never ourselves. This is one where you have to make yourself the priority, because cancer is not waiting. I was giving my tumor ramp time. By the time I detected it, it was stage 1. But maybe I would not have lost a breast. Maybe it could have been a lumpectomy. They might have shrunk it through chemo first and then seen if surgery was needed. There were other options. And because I waited, I gave it the opportunity to grow. And let me tell you, the day that you see that tumor on an imaging screen, you will never forget that moment, because it's like a little monster inside of you, and it's alive. It has a life, and it's trying to take yours. So that's why early detection is so important. You will have more options. You will have more. There's more dialogue with your doctors, because the further along the tumor is, the more they are in control, and you are just saying, "Go ahead, save my life." You don't have choices.
And so that I'm clear on this, early detection doesn't mean only going to get a mammogram if you're feeling a sensation, right? You should just do it regularly so that if something happens, you can detect it as early as possible. Is that like an annual thing that people should be doing?
At a certain age, you do go in annually or biannually. And the reason it's important to go in early is because it establishes a benchmark. So now they know what your breast looks like without cancer. And in case there's any change, they're able to compare it to the prior screenings. So it is very important to go before you have cancer, get the mammogram so you know what your breast looks like. What also happens is about 40% of the women get a letter that they have dense tissue breast. So you go in for your mammogram, but the results are not conclusive because you have dense tissue breast. And they have to go back in, do additional screening, and see if everything is okay. Now, I can tell you with my dense tissue breast, the nodule that I had was as hard as a marble. Literally, it was like a knuckle underneath my skin. And the mammogram imaging would not detect it. Even the ultrasound imaging would not detect it. Even after we could feel it, it still would not come up in the imaging screen. Until last week, I had never spoken to a woman that had that exact situation. So that's why it's important to get in, get your mammogram. Don't wait for a sensation. And if you do have something going on, if you feel like there's something growing, and to answer your question, Mark, I mean, it is, I normally don't talk about it, but what I was feeling was like there was a little something that was active. It was, I mean, I could feel almost like a tingly sensation. Oh, wow. And what was interesting is I was drinking a lot of soy milk at that time. And I could tell as I was drinking soy lattes, I could feel it more active, and only in one breast, not in the other.
Wow.
So and that just happened to be my symptoms. That was what I was feeling. Everybody's going to have their own story. But I think the point is, just don't wait. Go get the mammogram. And for men, this is where it's really important also. For men, you're the support system. You are that backbone for her. She needs to hear from you that it's okay, no matter what happens, you will still be here for her, that she is still important, that she is still desirable and beautiful. She needs to hear those words, because it's really hard for us to pick up that phone, make that phone call, because we're thinking, what if? But if we have someone at home telling us, no matter what, I'm here for you, that can make all the difference. And I can tell you, I mean, I was divorced by the time I was going through it, but I know that the very first time I got a mammogram, I was still married. I got the letter about the dense tissue breast, and I kind of put it aside saying, oh, I guess I have to go again. They said something about there might be something there, but there's dense tissue and it should be fine. And I vividly remember my husband at the time saying, call tomorrow. You need to go in tomorrow. It's really important that you get this taken care of. And that was the impetus. I remember just the impetus in his voice, the urgency. The urgency for me came from him, which was interesting.
That's
I was
awesome.
kind of putting it aside. Mm-hmm.
I think,
So-
and Dee said, let's not forget men get breast cancer too. What a great opportunity to go together, right? Like to take it upon both parties in the household to say, hey, let's go do this together. You get one, I'll get one, and make it a date night or make it, a day off from work or whatever, but create some, experience around it to do what you need to do to take care of yourselves.
So I want to bring this up. You have chosen to use social media to have a voice in this. You post about it regularly. You talk about your story. You talk about stuff. Shay, show me some of the stuff that we had. You are a proponent of this, not just in this setting, but you live it, you breathe it. Tell us your Disney World story.
The Disney World story. So in terms of the posting, it's just this month. And this was not something I planned at all. Literally, the first post came out October 1st because it was Breast Cancer Awareness Month. I wasn't sure if I was going to do this at all, but I had a couple people around me that were talking about their mental health issues and posting their story. And that's where I got my strength from. I thought, I had told them, if you help one person with your story, that could make the difference. Then I looked at myself that night in the mirror and thought, well, what are you saying? Why don't you use the exact same platform to do the same thing yourself? If I can help one person, if one person takes, gets that mammogram and saves their life, then all these posts will have made a difference. So I've made a post every single day. Cancer is multifaceted. This story has so many nuances to it. So I'm even surprising myself how every day there's something different I can talk about. The Disney World story. So I've had some tremendous luck winning Disneyland tickets on the radio, actually since the divorce. So since 2010, every year I've won Disneyland tickets. And I won them again the year that I was diagnosed, but I wasn't sure if I should go. And I can tell you, every doctor, every nurse said to me, go. Because patients that go into surgery with a happy, positive mindset have a much better outcome. You go in thinking that you're going to be fine. And that's the mindset that you need. I mean, it's just like in any business venture, starting any ball game. You guys talk about it here all the time, having that positive mindset. The scalpel was in the doctor's hands, but my mindset was under my control. And that's what I wanted to go in with.
It's awesome.
Yeah, I mean, I think, for me, the takeaway is watching that, I got inspired and happy because of your happiness. It is contagious. We talk about the pandemic and all the negative things that, contagious things. Well, smiling and being happy and being positive are just as contagious. And you are a shining example of somebody who, and for people that are not following you, they should, because you're also in sales. No surprise. You're also really successful because you understand the power of your mind, the power of healing. All the things that you are doing are an inspiration to us. And I'm thrilled. People don't know, man, this is 3 hours earlier for you.
Yeah, I was going to say, in the beginning, I was going to ask you to tell everybody where you were coming from, because you are 1,000% a part of the 5 a.m. club today and every day that you're here for the huddle.
It is pitch black dark outside. There are trees out there that I know are there, but I can't see them. You know that I love you guys if I put on my game face at 4 in the morning for you.
Well, I know you're going to have a fantastic Friday because you've got a 3-hour head start on everybody else on their day. So congratulations to you.
And we will make sure, Shay will make sure to get you the link to this so that you can share it with all your audience and keep being the inspiration you are. Thanks for joining us. Look, even my lady is jumping in there. And she's a big proponent of be your own doctor first. So, there's nobody that's going to care for you better than yourself. So kudos to you. Thanks for joining us. Please come back and visit us again. Have an awesome weekend. And now it's time to get down to business.
Please don't worry about me. I'm about to let my heart speak. My friends keep telling me to leave this. So let's get down to business. Let's get down